If you need a last-minute gift for somebody and you have no idea what to get them and you'd like the gift to be handmade, why not consider a coffee mug cozy? You're just going to want to make it 2 inches narrower than the circumference of the cup, so you might even want to get a cup to put it on for the gift. It doesn't take long at all to make. This particular one is done in a broken rib stitch pattern using Be So Wild yarn, which is a yarn that I make by combining different novelty yarns like a wool ribbon and kid mohair and sequins and a thick and thin sparkly yarn, and then I wrap the whole thing with a silk thread so that it becomes one super bulky yarn. It's really beautiful, really beautiful in person, and a lot of fun to work with, especially because it's super bulky, so it works up really quick. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to do this super simple pattern that's called broken rib. It looks like a rib pattern. 1 by 1 ribbing would be knit 1, purl 1, where you'd always see the knit stitch or the stockinette in between reverse stockinette. Well, broken rib means that you're seeing garter stitch in between the stockinette. And what that does is it gives you a fabric that lays a lot flatter than actual ribbing. It's actually a lot wider and lays a lot flatter with no curling because it's actually garter stitch in each of these columns between the stockinette columns. So let's get started. We're going to need one ball of Be So Wild yarn or a super bulky yarn, and I'm going to be using a size 10.5 or 6.5 millimeter crochet, knitting needles. Let's see. And we're going to cast on 7 stitches. And then you're obviously going to need a button for this, and that's the only other thing you'll need. Okay, first row is to knit across. Doesn't get easier than that. And this is the right side row. Okay, the next row is to knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, and knit 1. Okay, that was the wrong side row. And that's it. That's all there is to the pattern. We're going to knit every right side row. And every wrong side row is knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, and knit 1. And you can see we already have those stockinette columns popping out in between the garter stitch columns, which is different than if it were reverse stockinette for regular ribbing. This would all be a lot more cinched up like that, where actually it's laying out a lot flatter, which means you can see a lot more of the texture of this beautiful yarn. So the last part of the pattern, so we're going to do that until our piece is 2 inches narrower than the circumference of the coffee cup, and make sure you download my free pattern on my website and it'll explain all of that. Then on the last row, in order to do the buttonhole, we're going to bind off all of these stitches until the last one. And you could do I-cord for the buttonhole, but I thought I'd do something a little bit different this time. And we're going to, in essence, do something very similar to a chain in crochet or a knit cast on in knitting, except we're going to drop the stitch after every time we knit one back on. And I'll show you what that means. We're going to insert our right hand needle into the stitch on our left hand needle, which is our last stitch from binding off all the rest. And we're going to pull a loop through and then drop the loop on our left hand needle off. Move it back to the left hand needle and do the same thing. Knit a stitch, drop it off the left hand needle, and move the new stitch to the left hand. And we're going to do this a total of 13 times. And if you want these to be tight, you want to tighten them as you go. I like this kind of stitch rather tight. Okay, so once you have 13 of those on there, you're going to bind that off and sew it to the opposite end of the row to create your buttonhole, and that's what we've done here. And I'll show you how we tie that, wrap that back around the coffee cup. You want to make sure you pull the button and the loop through the handle so that it stays in place. Couldn't be simpler. What a great last minute gift.